All this time you've been trying to impress her, buying the cologne, sending the clever texts, timing your replies like it's some kind of digital chess game. You thought if you just looked good enough, talked smooth enough, stayed consistent enough, she'd finally see you. But instead, she pulled away. Slowly at first. Shorter texts, colder eyes, less laughter, and then one day, nothing. Silence. A blank screen. Your name meant less than a notification. You kept playing a game where every move gave her more control and took away yours. You gave her comfort, certainty, attention, and with every gift, she forgot the parts of you she once noticed. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You were forgettable because you made her feel safe in a way that didn't excite her. You were convenient, predictable, there, and presence without tension is just background noise. But there's a mindset that flips this. One that doesn't rely on chasing or impressing or being a good guy. It makes you stick in her mind, not because you performed, but because you triggered something deeper, something primal. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to become that man. The one she replays in her head at 2 a.m., the one she can't fully figure out, the one who leaves a mark without even trying. Let's start here. You think attraction is about doing more effort, more time, more proof. But women don't fall for effort, they fall for energy. And not just any energy, a specific kind, calm, grounded, slightly dangerous unpredictability. Let me paint it for you. You walk into a room. You don't look around for approval. You don't scan for reactions. You sit back, take up space, speak only when there's something worth saying. You're not smiling at every girl, not trying to impress anyone. And somehow, people lean in. Because you're giving off something different. Not neediness, not aggression, not aloofness, just control. And that control, it burns into memory. It's the feeling of being around a man who doesn't shift his gravity for anyone. See, when a woman meets a man like that, her brain does something wild. It starts to scan him for cracks, for flaws, for signs of the usual, desperation, ego, validation seeking. But when she doesn't find it, you become unsolvable, not a threat, not a puppy, something she can't define. And the female brain obsesses over what it can't define. This is the mindset that makes you unforgettable. It's not about saying the right thing. It's about being the right energy. You don't try to be remembered. You act like you've already forgotten her. Not with bitterness, not with spite, with focus. Because while she's wondering what you're thinking, you're building. While she's checking your story, you're skipping hers. While she's trying to trigger a reaction, you've become the man who no longer reacts. That's power. And power is remembered. But you weren't always like this. There was a time when you over-explained, when you double-texted, when you thought, if I just show her how good I am, how loyal I am, she'll stay. You told yourself being consistent made you stand out. But in her eyes, you were just available. And available gets remembered the way elevator music does. Familiar, comforting, but completely forgettable. Let's break this. You don't become unforgettable by being the guy who's always around. You become unforgettable by being the guy who disrupts her rhythm. Picture this. She's used to guys orbiting her, replying instantly, dropping emojis, falling over themselves just to keep her attention. It's not her fault. It's just the pattern she's come to expect. But then she meets you. You don't play. You don't explain. You don't even blink when she tries to pull the usual emotional tricks. You're warm, but reserved. Engaged, but unbothered. And she feels it in her gut. He's not like the rest of them. That thought, that internal shift, it brands you into her memory. Let me be clear. You don't do this by faking distance. You don't wait 3 hours to reply because you read it on some Reddit thread. You do it because you're actually occupied. Because your focus is no longer validation. It's mission. And women don't forget men on a mission. They remember the ones who didn't fall into orbit around them. They remember the ones whose lives were already full, with or without their attention. So here's the challenge. The next time you feel the urge to reach out, don't. Not because you're playing games, but because you've realized the game isn't worth playing. If she's thinking about you, good. If she's not, you've got better things to build. And the moment she senses that detachment, her mind will start racing. You have to understand how women think. They don't obsess over clarity. They obsess over ambiguity. Why hasn't he texted? Did I mess it up? Is he seeing someone else? That loop, that unknown, creates the kind of psychological attachment no good morning text ever will. But you only access that power when your mindset shifts from needing her to notice you to knowing you're already unforgettable, because you no longer chase. You walk. You walk like you've got places to be, with or without her. And that walk, it leaves echoes. Let me take you to a moment. She's sitting at a party. Her friends are talking, laughing. She's sipping from a red plastic cup, but she's only half present. Her thumb keeps brushing the edge of her phone. Her eyes keep drifting toward the entrance. She's not looking for anyone. She's looking for you. And when you walk in, you don't make a scene. You don't scan the room for her. You walk with purpose. You nod at people who nod at you. You say a few words to someone by the counter. You exist like someone who didn't come to be noticed. You came because this is your world, and she just happens to be in it. Her heart skips, not because you looked her way, but because you didn't. Because in her mind, this was supposed to be a story where she was the lead. And now, she's background noise to your narrative. And that wrecks her. She tries to play it cool. Maybe she adjusts her posture, laughs a little louder. Looks like she's having fun, but she's clocking your every move. Every word you say to someone else feels like a line that could have been hers. Every smile you give that isn't directed at her becomes a little dagger of self-doubt. Was I wrong about him? Why doesn't he care? Did I lose my grip on him? You've done nothing overt. No revenge move. No manipulation. You've simply detached. And detachment, when it comes from a man who once gave her warmth, is psychological wildfire. That's the secret. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to flex. You just need to withdraw your energy without apology. Because most men, they keep themselves in her orbit. They stay in reach, just in case. They stay friends. They like her photos, comment on her stories, leave just enough digital breadcrumbs so she knows he's still hungry. But you burn the breadcrumb trail. And now she's lost in a forest of what-ifs. That's when obsession grows. Not when you're texting goodnight, but when you're not texting at all. Not when you're visible, but when your absence becomes palpable. Because here's the paradox women rarely admit. They want to feel secure, but they're addicted to men who give them mystery. And mystery doesn't mean being distant. It means being unpredictable in a way that feels earned. It means she doesn't get to know everything. It means your world doesn't orbit hers. It pulls her into yours. And the more she tries to decode you, the deeper you embed. Here's the real reason she forgets most guys. They give her certainty too early. Certainty kills curiosity. It kills tension. It kills the space where attraction lives. Think about it. Every time you immediately reply to her text, every time you rearrange your schedule to see her, every time you check in just to remind her you're still there, you hand her your emotional GPS. And once she knows where you are, she stops wondering, stops reaching, stops imagining. You don't leave a dent by being reliable in the way most guys interpret it. You leave a dent by creating emotional contrast. It's not the grand gesture that stays in her head. It's the unexpected pause, the missed call, the way you pulled back without explanation, just enough to make her question everything. That's what she remembers, not the messages you sent, the ones you didn't. Because whether she admits it or not, the feminine psyche feeds on uncertainty wrapped in confidence. She wants to feel pulled, gently, not forcefully, into your gravity. And that gravity only exists when you have something heavier than her to orbit. Your purpose, your path, your pace. When she feels like you'll derail your life for her attention, you lose your edge. You lose your weight. You become light, replaceable, air. But when she feels like she has to catch up to you, that's unforgettable. Not because you're trying to make her chase, but because you're moving too fast to wait. This is what most men miss. They think standing still shows commitment. It doesn't. It shows need. And need is the quickest way to flatten sexual tension into friendship. Here's the bitter truth. If you want to become the man she never forgets, you have to be the man who doesn't wait to be remembered. She's not going to wake up missing the version of you who is always available. She's going to wake up missing the version of you who felt slightly out of reach, who moved through life like a storm she couldn't quite map. You don't need to be cold. You need to be composed. And composure, when everyone else is begging for attention, is terrifyingly attractive. So the next time you feel that impulse, to chase, to clarify, to make sure she knows how much you care, pause, breathe, ask yourself this. Do I want to be remembered? Or do I want to be respected? They told you to be honest, to be open, to express how you feel. That vulnerability is the key. But here's what they never told you. Honesty without boundaries isn't strength, it's emotional vomit. It's the guy who tells her everything too soon, It's the guy who confesses his feelings after 2 dates. It's the guy who bleeds on a woman who hasn't even earned the right to hold the knife. And women don't respect that. They may smile, say thank you, tell you you're sweet, but deep down, they start pulling away. Because in their eyes, you just went from mystery to manageable, from potential to predictable. She doesn't forget the guy who told her everything. She forgets him easily. Because there's no depth to explore, no layers to peel, no edge to sharpen herself against. What she can't forget is the man who shows control. Not control over her, control over himself. He feels everything. He just doesn't hand it over like a receipt. He lets her feel the weight of his presence without ever asking for reassurance. And that restraint? That's masculine discipline. That's emotional sovereignty. That's unforgettable. Let me give it to you straight. Every time you try to prove yourself, you erase a piece of your presence. Because if you were already enough, why would you need to prove anything? You think telling her how you feel will bring her closer. But real closeness doesn't come from words. It comes from polarity. From being a man with centered energy, grounded, still, unshakable. A man who could have her, but doesn't need to. She remembers that. Because women don't obsess over availability. They obsess over uncertainty fused with confidence. That's the cocktail. Too much of either, and you blow it. But the right balance? You stay burned into her mind like a cigarette scar. A little pain, a little mystery, and a whole lot of, what the hell just happened to me? So throw away the myth that being open is always the way. There's power in holding it back. Not to hide, but to protect your gravity. You don't give your emotional world away to every woman who walks in with a smile. You make her earn the deeper layers. Because you're not here to be liked. You're here to be felt, to be remembered. Let's get one thing straight. You're not unforgettable because of how many compliments you give. You're unforgettable because of how she feels about herself when she's around you. Think about that. The guy she forgets? They pedestal her. They flatter her. They try to make her feel like a queen so she'll treat them like a king. But you make her feel something different. Not worshipped, not coddled, but seen. Seen in a way that's honest. Seen in a way that doesn't always praise her, but always challenges her. And that's rare. That's unforgettable. Because here's what no one tells you. Women don't want to be constantly validated. They want to be magnetized. They want to feel that edge of tension, that pulse of unpredictability that makes their stomach twist. They want to feel your standards, not your need. And the moment she senses that you hold the line, that you're not afraid to walk away, that's when her mind starts clinging to you. Not because you're being distant, but because you've made her work for your closeness. And anything we work for, we value more. Let's zoom out. She's had attention. She's had admiration. She's had guys tell her she's beautiful and funny and the one. But none of those guys ever made her grow. And you show her what accountability feels like. You look at her, not with approval, but with clarity. You spot the drama, the ego, the test, and you don't react. You don't take the bait. You remain still. You call her out when no one else dares to. Not because you're cold, because you respect her more than her illusions. You become the mirror she can't ignore. And when a woman sees herself differently around you, that sticks. It lingers. Because you didn't give her a high. You gave her a shift, a before and after. Most men give her a moment. You give her a mirror. And that reflection? It haunts her. It's why she checks your profile weeks later. It's why she talks about you to friends even when she's dating someone else. It's why, deep down, she compares every man who comes after you to you. Because they smile more. They agree more. They chase harder. But they don't shift her. And you didn't even try. You were just centered. So here's the challenge. Every time you feel the urge to please, to soften, to bend just to keep her around, don't. Instead, stand still. Let her move around you. Let her feel the quiet gravity of a man who doesn't break character just to earn affection. That's the mindset that makes you unforgettable. You're not chasing her. You're shaping her experience of herself. And trust me, she'll never forget the man who made her evolve. They tell you confidence is loud, that it's swagger, flashy clothes, smooth lines. They say women want a man who makes them laugh, a man who listens, a man who treats them like a queen. That's all surface-level advice designed to keep you agreeable. But here's the truth that makes people uncomfortable. Confidence is silence. It's the ability to sit across from a beautiful woman, look her dead in the eye, and say absolutely nothing. Because you're not auditioning. You're not seeking permission. You're not afraid of the void. You are the void, and she feels it. She fidgets. She fills the silence. She reaches for her phone. She tries to decode the unreadable. And in her nervousness, you grow. Because while other guys are busy entertaining her, you're interrupting her pattern. You're not trying to be liked. You're forcing her to feel. This is the rarest thing a man can be today. Unmoved, not apathetic, not cold, just still. Still enough to make her realize how chaotic everything else is. Still enough to reflect her energy right back at her, unshaken. She won't forget that. Because in a world of noise, stillness becomes a thunderclap. Look, you don't get remembered because of your stories, your muscles, your jokes. You get remembered because of your impact. The invisible shift she felt in your presence. The way her ego folded around you, not because you tried to crush it, but because it had nowhere to cling. That's what she'll carry. Not your compliments, not your gifts, not your willingness to always be there, but the space you created, the tension you allowed, the strength you embodied. And if she walks away, let her. Because unforgettable men never chase. They don't lower their energy just to be understood. They walk like their shadow weighs more than most men's presence. And even if she leaves, she'll feel you long after you're gone.